Today on our 2017 GMC Sierra 1500, you're going to be taking a look at it, and I'm going to show you how to install the Roadmaster Automatic Battery Disconnect with switch for towed vehicles with supplemental braking system. Part number RM-766. This is what our battery disconnect looks like when it's installed. This is going to allow you to disconnect the power to your battery while your vehicle is being flat towed. The reason you're going to need this is because the vehicle has to have the key in the on position, and you cannot remove the key while the vehicle is being towed. With the key in the on position, everything on the dash, all the dash lights and everything stay on. This is going to allow you to click a button, mount it on the inside of the vehicle, and shut the power off so you don't drain your battery. Now that we've talked about what the battery disconnect does, let me show you everything that comes in the kit. This is what your kit's going to look like when you get it. This is going to be your battery disconnect. This is what is going to shut off the power to your battery when your vehicle is being flat towed, because some vehicles the key has to be in the on position. This will break that connection because we're going to connect one side to your battery cable, your existing battery cable. We're going to connect the other side to your battery post. This wire here is going to run inside the vehicle through the firewall, and it's going to connect to the switch, which we will mount somewhere on the dash. You're going to have your fuse, self-tapping screw for your ground wire, which is here. You're going to have two self-tapping screws, large self-tapping screws, to install your battery disconnect. You're also going to have two bolts and nuts, and you're going to have another nut and bolt, short one like this, that's got star washers on it. And this is going to be to make your connection between your two battery cables. You're also going to get heat shrink. You put around your connection where you connect your battery cable. Next, we need to find a place to mount our battery disconnect solenoid here. And you notice our cables are fairly long, but they're not too long. We need to find somewhere within the battery or the positive side of the battery to mount it. As you can see, we're kind of limited on some space here. When you mount this, if you have to loosen these for any reason to turn them, make sure you have a wrench that's holding this inside nut when you tighten this back down. You want to make sure that that inside nut does not move. If you do, you're going to ruin the solenoid here. Good place that I found to mount this is actually right about like that. I can run my cables underneath over here, over to my positive side. They stay away from everything else. I think that's probably going to be about as good a place as any. I mean, I can move it over a little bit. I'd have to remove that post there holding this wiring in. But I think I'm going to put it here. I think this would be a good place for it. So what we'll do is we'll take our two self-tapping screws, 3/8 socket. If you don't have a magnetic socket, take a 3/8 socket, put a little piece of paper towel over the hole, and then put your bolt or your self-tapping screw in it, and it will hold your screw inside. Run our cables underneath. Just like that. And again, we have our battery cable, battery post. Let's go ahead and run this inside first. Now my gray wire, all I did was zip tied it right on the back side of this wire loom here. Ran it right across over to this side, driver's side here. We have a large rubber grommet. We're just going to run our gray wire through that rubber grommet onto our driver's side. Next, we need to mount our switch right about here. It's pretty open behind there. You can see we got some wires. They kind of run this way. We have a wire connector here. We have a little bit over here. This spot right here is pretty open, and it's going to be out of the way so it won't accidentally get hit or turned on. So before we do any drilling, you want to make sure you pop your panel off, check it out just to make sure you don't have anything that you're going to hit when drilling, and you also want to pull it off when you're drilling. I'm going to be using a step bit. If you don't have a step bit, you'll need a 5-inch drill bit to drill this hole. On your switch, you're going to have a little nut. You need to make sure you pull that off. I think that's going to work good. Right in the spot. Not touching anything. Now what we need to do is take our gray wire, we're going to run it back behind and out the hole. Before you run it through the hole, you're going to make sure you put the nut on, because that's what's going to tighten your switch onto this panel. And what we'll do is we'll cut our wire, splice it into our switch. We'll strip back each row of wires. And we can use either a flathead or a Phillips screwdriver. We're not going to remove these all the way, we're just going to pull them out a little bit. You notice right here at the bottom, there's a hole. That's where we're going to be feeding our wires through. We just want to screw it enough we can get our wires in there. There's not a positive or negative side. We can just put our wires in however. I'm actually going to shorten these a little bit. The reason I'm doing that is I don't want my wire hanging out the end. When I tighten that bolt down, I don't want it hanging out a lot. There. We'll feed this back through. Switch in place. And then we'll put the nut on. We can get our panel back in place. Now it's a good idea you go ahead and disconnect your negative battery cable. So what we're going to do, because this wire is connected to this terminal on our posts, I'm actually going to disconnect it here. I'm going to hook my battery cable to the end of this, and then my battery post, which is this one, I'm going to hook it onto the end of my cable that's going to my post. And then my battery cable, I'm going to hook it here. I'll probably end up cutting a little notch right here in the side of this so my cable will sit in there and I can put the lid back on. But when I take this off, I'm going to rotate it over so it sits on the side here. So to start, we'll take a 10mm socket. We're going to take this off. Pull this off. We'll go ahead and loosen this. Enough where I can pull this off. Let's see. This, rotate it like that. We'll take our battery cable, I'm going to pull it back through here. Cut me a notch out there. See if this will fit. It'll fit good. And then my cap will snap back into place. I'm going to connect that there. And put our nut back on. Now we'll take our heat shrink. We're going to slide it onto our battery post cable. And then our nut and bolt with our 2 star washers. Now, this is going to have 2 of them, so the way this is going to go on is you're going to put on the bolt, star washer, . we're going to put it on to our cable. And we're going to put a start washer on the nut side. And we'll get that tightened down. 1/2-inch socket and wrench. We'll take our heat shrink and slide it right over the top. Then we'll take our heat source, shrink that up. When you're heat shrinking this, just make sure you stay away from anything that may melt or burn other than that heat shrink sleeve. Maybe a good idea to take that post or take that cable off that post and kind of hold it up while you're doing it. Our kit comes with some wire loom. I'm going to put wire loom over this, and then I'll tape parts of the wire loom just to kind of clean it up a little bit. Take my wire loom, put it over my post like this, or my cable. Next we'll do our ground wire. Strip the end of it, put on the ring terminal. Keep in mind, you want to put this on the body somewhere. If you can find an existing ground, great. Put it on the battery. They don't prefer that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put it right back here. When doing that, you have your positive battery post here. This cover, you just want to make sure you cover that up before you put this in, so you don't hit your positive battery post with your drill. So there. Next, this cover here fits right over the top of this. But you can see when I move that cable, it's hitting my cover and I can't put my cover on. So I'm going to have to notch that out. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this section out of it. It's this whole corner right here. Now, the way I cut it out, I used a rotary tool with a plastic cutting blade on it. So we'll slide this back into place. Lock it back in. And it's secured. I think that'll work out good. Last thing we need to do is install our fuse into our fuse holder. And then we can test it out and make sure it's working correctly. Now with our key in the on position, in tow mode, you can see that our dash lights and everything are still on. We're not going to be able to take our key out because of the vehicle being in tow mode. Now we'll test it out. We'll push our button and it should shut everything off. That's going to disconnect all of this from our battery, not wire down our battery while we're traveling. That'll do it for a look at and installation on the Roadmaster Automatic Battery Disconnect with switch for towed vehicles with supplemental braking system, part number RM-766, on our 2017 GMC Sierra 1500.